Right now, without thinking about it, you just took a breath. You do it around 20,000 times a day. You have never once been taught how. And for most of your life, you have been doing it wrong. Not dangerously wrong, not drop-dead wrong, but wrong in a way that has quietly shaped your energy, your focus, your sleep, your anxiety, and even the structure of your face. Wrong in a way that researchers have spent decades trying to warn you about, only to be largely ignored by mainstream medicine. Wrong in a way that your ancient ancestors almost certainly were not. So, before you take your next breath, let's talk about what is actually happening and what you have been missing. Your respiratory system is one of the most finely engineered systems in the human body. You have two pathways for air to enter: your nose and your mouth. Most people assume these are interchangeable. A hole is a hole. Air gets in either way. What does it matter? It matters enormously. And the difference between those two pathways is the difference between a body running smoothly and a body running on fumes. Start with the nose. Your nasal cavity is not simply a tube. It is a filtration plant, a humidifier, a pressure regulator, and a biochemical laboratory all at once. When air enters through your nose, tiny hair-like structures called cilia trap particulates before they reach your lungs. The mucous membranes warm and humidify the air, bringing it closer to body temperature and protecting delicate lung tissue. Nasal breathing also produces something called nitric oxide, a molecule your body uses to dilate blood vessels, improve oxygen uptake in the lungs, and regulate blood pressure. You only produce nitric oxide in meaningful quantities through your nose. Now, the mouth. When you breathe through your mouth, you bypass all of that. Cold, dry, unfiltered air hits your airways directly. No nitric oxide, no regulation, no filtration. Just raw air flooding into a system designed to receive something far more refined. James Nestor, a science journalist who spent years researching human respiration and published his findings in a landmark investigation into the modern breathing crisis, compared mouth breathing to drinking unfiltered water from a river when a purification plant was installed directly beside you. The infrastructure is there. You are just not using it. But why are so many people mouth breathers in the first place? The answer is not laziness. It is not stupidity. It goes much deeper than that, and it starts long before you were born. For the vast majority of human evolutionary history, your ancestors chewed hard, constantly. The prehistoric human diet was full of tough, fibrous, resistant foods: roots, raw meat, seeds, bark, dried grains. Every meal was a workout for the jaw. And that constant mechanical stress was not incidental. It shaped the skull. It widened the palate. It pushed the jaw forward and kept the airway open. The bones of ancient human skulls, studied extensively by researchers, including physical anthropologist Daniel Lieberman at Harvard, show wider dental arches, fewer impacted teeth, and more forward-set jaws than modern humans. Ancient skulls rarely show signs of crooked teeth. Not because our ancestors had better dental hygiene, because their faces were shaped by resistance. Your face is different. Your jaw is narrower. Your palate is higher and more arched. Your airway is more compressed. And the reason is soft food. The agricultural revolution, and then the industrial revolution, progressively softened the human diet. Cooked grains, processed food, baby formula, pureed meals for infants. The mechanical stress that used to sculpt the craniofacial structure was removed, generation by generation, and the bones responded by growing differently. Narrower, smaller, crowded. The result is a mouth that is slightly too small for the airway it needs to support. And when your airway is compressed, Your body compensates, often by dropping the jaw and breathing through the mouth, especially at night. This is not a minor aesthetic issue. Mouth breathing during sleep drives one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in modern medicine: sleep-disordered breathing. When you sleep with your mouth open, your jaw drops, your tongue falls back, and the soft tissue at the back of your throat collapses inward. This narrows the airway further. Your body has to work harder to pull air through. You snore. You cycle partially out of deep sleep hundreds of times a night without ever fully waking. You feel exhausted in the morning, and you do not know why. Stanford sleep researcher Christian Guilleminault has argued for decades that sleep-disordered breathing is one of the most consequential and overlooked health problems of the modern era, linked to cardiovascular disease, metabolic dysfunction, cognitive decline, and mood disorders. And at the root of much of it is something as simple and as correctable as how the mouth is positioned during sleep. But it is not just about sleep. Chronic mouth breathing rewires your nervous system in ways that go far beyond nighttime rest. Here is what happens in your brain when you breathe through your mouth. Mouth breathing tends to be fast and shallow, what researchers call chest breathing, where the upper chest rises and falls, but the diaphragm barely moves. When you breathe this way, you exhale carbon dioxide too quickly. And here is the counterintuitive part. Your blood's ability to release oxygen to your tissues is regulated not by how much oxygen you inhale, but by how much carbon dioxide you retain. This is called the Bohr effect, first described by Danish physiologist Christian Bohr in 1904. Carbon dioxide is not simply a waste product, it is a signaling molecule. Without adequate CO2, hemoglobin, the protein in your red blood cells that carries oxygen, grips the oxygen too tightly and cannot release it efficiently to your muscles and organs. The result is a kind of internal oxygen paradox. You are breathing more air, but your cells are getting less oxygen. Breathe faster, get less oxygen. It sounds impossible. And yet, this is the mechanism underlying the lightheadedness, the anxiety, the brain fog that people experience during hyperventilation. It is also the low-grade, chronic version of the same mechanism that many habitual mouth breathers live with every single day. Never enough air, always slightly on edge, always just a little short of full. The nervous system responds to this CO2 imbalance by activating the sympathetic branch, the fight-or-flight arm of your autonomic system. Your body interprets fast, shallow breathing as a signal of threat. Cortisol rises. Attention narrows. The body enters a low-grade state of physiological alarm, even when you are sitting perfectly still at a desk, or trying to fall asleep, or trying to focus on a conversation. The breathing pattern itself is telling your nervous system that something is wrong. Now reverse it. Close your mouth. Drop your shoulders. Breathe slowly, through your nose, into your belly, allowing your diaphragm to descend fully on each inhale. Hold the exhale slightly longer than the inhale. What happens? CO2 levels stabilize. Nitric oxide floods your bloodstream. Blood vessels dilate. Oxygen delivery to your tissues improves. The vagus nerve activates. Your heart rate slows. Your pupils soften. Your muscles release tension. The parasympathetic system, rest and digest, takes the wheel. This is not speculation. It is measurable, reproducible physiology. And it is something your body already knows how to do. It has just been waiting for you to get out of the way. The global tradition of breathwork, spanning cultures from ancient India to pre-colonial North America to Taoist China, did not develop in isolation. These practices, pranayama in the Hindu tradition, holotropic breathing, the box breathing now taught to Navy SEALs, converged on the same mechanical truth from completely different directions. Slow down. Breathe through the nose. Let the diaphragm do the work. These are not mystical insights. They are applied respiratory physiology, discovered and rediscovered by humans throughout history, who paid close attention to what the body was telling them. Modern medicine has been slower to catch up. Breathing is not a pill. It cannot be patented. There is no drug company funding a clinical trial for nasal breathing. And so the research sits in journals, cited by a small number of specialists, largely invisible to the average person who wakes up every morning with a dry mouth and a foggy head and assumes that this is simply how they are supposed to feel. It is not how you are supposed to feel. You are supposed to wake up with a closed mouth, a hydrated throat, a rested nervous system, and a body that has been quietly, efficiently, silently cycling through thousands of nasal breaths while you slept. That is the default. That is the design. The mouth is for eating, drinking, speaking, and as an emergency backup airway. It was never meant to be the primary route for respiration. So, what do? The answer is almost embarrassingly simple. During your waking hours, practice keeping your lips lightly sealed. Breathe through your nose. Let your tongue rest gently at the roof of your mouth. Not pressed hard, just resting. This is called the correct tongue posture by myofunctional therapists, and it helps maintain the airway and support the palate naturally. At night, if you discover that you are waking up with a dry mouth, some researchers and clinicians have advocated for a practice called mouth taping, placing a small strip of medical tape over the lips during sleep to encourage nasal breathing. It sounds unusual. The data on it is increasingly hard to dismiss. And the deeper truth, the one that makes this whole story strange and worth sitting with, is this. The way you breathe is the way your nervous system learns to be. Every fast, shallow, mouth-pulled breath is a vote for anxiety. Every slow, deep, nose-driven breath is a vote for calm. You cast 20,000 votes a day. Most people do not know they are voting at all. Right now, without thinking about it, you just took another breath. Now you know what it was worth.